We just wanted to start this conversation by asking, what motivates you to volunteer?
Big question. Well, first of all, I think it improves my mental health. I talk a lot in my role about the ways of well-being and sort of giving to others. And that's what really motivates me, I think, to be able to use my skills and abilities to have a positive impact, whatever that may be. And I've worked in quite a lot of different volunteering roles in different contexts over the years. Currently, I'm church treasurer. I think I'm organised. I like numbers and I like detail. So hopefully I'm using my skills well here to keep us on track with our finances. But volunteering can also be lots of fun. And in my younger days, I did lots of volunteering, mainly helping out at kids' camps, so cooking, driving minibuses, hill walking, often involving sleeping on hard church floors, driving minibuses up very steep hills full of teenagers, but lots of fun. And I think I saw the positive impact that had, particularly taking children from here in Barton Hill to camp, to the Lake District. That springs to mind, where they wanted me to stop the minibus just because they could look at the views, because actually they weren't used to seeing views like that in Barton Hill. And it just humbled me really, and thought, well, what a real positive impact I was making. So a week worth of no sleep was worth it. And also I've connected with lots of people whilst doing that, and made lifelong friends who I now go away with without the kids. But we've maintained those connections and friendships.
How can volunteering contribute to the life of the church?
Well, there's so many jobs, isn't there, that need doing in church. And I think what we've said previously is volunteers have got so many skills and abilities. And I think we need all of those, because to maintain a building this size and all the activities we run, you couldn't expect a clergy person or even a ministry team to do all of that. So things that need doing in the building, just cleaning, vacuuming, all those sort of types of tasks. But then music, leading our worship, preaching, all of these things volunteers do quite regularly. So tech is another one, and social media. I think there are so many jobs that need doing in churches that need so many different skills and abilities. But actually, I think there's something that everyone could find to volunteer.
How do you think volunteering can enhance community engagement?
I think it's really important for churches to be outward facing, not just doing what we do on a Sunday. So volunteers can help engage by, running our food banks. Here at St Luke's, we have a brilliant team of volunteers running our holiday activities from the church and not from the church, but using a range of different skills and abilities. So some people, I tend to turn up, I love cooking, so I'll always volunteer to be in the kitchen, and then other people don't like being in the kitchen, but they're brilliant at doing games with the kids. So I think doing those outward facing things, whether it be warm spaces, food banks, and then the pastoral care and prayer ministry as well, lots of that is done by volunteers, and I think has a huge impact on community.
How can a volunteer contribute to the life of the church, and how does that sort of enhance community engagement as well?
Well, I think there's so many ways actually people contribute, from maintenance to church services, preaching, help leading groups, helping with young people's activities, music, technology. Just thinking of St Luke's, a building this size takes a huge amount of hours of fixing things, arranging electrical inspections. We've got someone on site today doing that. So all sorts of different skills are needed. And obviously a clergy person cannot do all of these things. So I think we just need volunteers to contribute and have an impact, basically.
Definitely.
Regarding community engagement, I think obviously our churches, they want to be outward facing as well as what we do here on a Sunday. And we've got lots of examples here actually of people that are not from the church actually, but still volunteering in things that they're passionate about. So we've got a project where we do activities in the school holidays. We've got lots of volunteers who help with that, and that really enhances our engagement and our connection with the community. But in other churches, I've seen volunteers doing things like helping to run warm spaces, helping with the social media, pastoral care. So just a whole raft of things I think that church can do, as well as run our prayer groups and our small groups, but lots of community engagement and opportunities for volunteering.
I know you are a bit of an expert at working with old people and those living with dementia. How can we encourage them to get involved in the life of the church?
Well, I think we need all different skills to do our volunteering across churches. So as well as, new ideas that younger people may have, we need wisdom as well. So, and to include people living with dementia, I think it's really important for people living with dementia to still feel like they have a place to volunteer if they're able to. And I've seen some really nice examples of older people still being encouraged to volunteer, including those living with dementia. So I've worked with a church where the volunteer was struggling to remember where to put things in the kitchen, and what the church has done is put labels on the cupboard doors and made it much more easy for that person to carry on volunteering. Not necessarily forever, but they were able to actually still volunteer and still feel like they were involved in the running of the church. But I think it's about knowing our people, and I think that's really important, and asking the people. I always say from my dementia training, learn from the expert. So ask the person living with dementia if they want to volunteer, what would be helpful? What could we put in place for you? What little changes could we make so that you can still be included? So lots of churches have done dementia awareness training. So volunteers are aware of what to look out for, and it could be another volunteer or it could be someone from the church, but they can be a bit more in tune with what might help that person and how to behave around that person.
Have you witnessed any more older or young people coming to volunteer in your context?
I think from the work I've been doing across the diocese, probably because I'm focusing on older people, I have noticed more older volunteers, and I think that's probably the national picture actually. A lot of volunteers are older, but in saying that, I think in what we've been discussing previously, we need both to make our churches function the best they possibly can. People bring different perspectives, they've got different life experiences, different ideas, different wisdom. So I think to help our churches with mission and outreach, we need both. So we need to definitely encourage younger and older volunteers. And going back to the first question about sort of why I volunteer, lots of people actually say they volunteer to make connections and to combat loneliness. And actually, younger and older people can have those sort of challenges, really. So, I think we should be up for all ages volunteering in our churches.
What can be done to encourage people to take an active role in church volunteering?
First of all, one of the things I think is really important is really defining what you want people to do and what that looks like in time commitment as well, so people don't feel like they're over committed. I think it's quite scary to say to people sometimes, oh, will you volunteer in our warm space, for instance, because people don't know what they're going to be expected to do. Whereas I think if you said to someone, would you come and make tea and coffee, it feels a bit more like, okay, I can do that. That's what my skills are, and I know exactly what people want me me to do. I think it's also about sort of not overburdening someone and expecting them to do too much. So it goes back to what I'm saying earlier, I guess, about knowing the person a little bit. What makes them tick? What are they good at? And using those strengths and connecting with people. I think to keep volunteers, it's really important to connect with them regularly and say, how is it working for you? And also helping them to understand the bigger picture and the impact they're having. Because actually, I think it's really important. At the end of our lunch project here, we always do a bit of an impact report about sort of how many meals we've served, some of the feedback from families. And I think it's really important when you're recruiting volunteers to show actually what an impact that their sort of volunteering is having. And also to keep volunteers, say thank you to them. I think it's really important to thank people regularly for their time, as well as giving them feedback. During Volunteers Week a couple of years ago, I just made all my volunteers thank you cards. And it was just really appreciated. Not a huge time thing on my part, but just making sure we say thank you and people feel valued. Another important thing, I think, is a bit being flexible, a bit like what I was saying about people living with dementia. So if someone says, oh, I'd love to help, but I can only help once a month and not every week, then being a bit more open to that and flexible to work with what the person can volunteer and the skills they've got.